Yesterday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bills quarterback Josh Allen put on a show, staying in the MVP conversation after an insane performance. Allen finished the 44-32 win with 317 passing yards, 3 touchdown passes, and 3 more scores on the ground. After the win, our own Evan Washburn caught up with Josh. Take a listen.
Josh, congrats. That was a wild game. What do you appreciate most and how you guys won it?
Well, how resilient we're. Bonehead decision on that first drive. Turned the ball over 3 times and somehow found a way to win in the way we did. That speaks a lot of the resiliency that we have in this locker room. And shout out our special teams. They played phenomenal tonight.
I know it's not about you, but when you can pass Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and tie Cam Newton in a game in terms of records, what comes to mind?
I'm doing my job. Like I said, early on in that first quarter especially, things weren't going the way we wanted to. Just trying to find a way to reset, just trusting what Joe's calling, trusting my feet, and finding completions, and we did that better in the second half.
Take me through the emotions of your final touchdown run, the big spike, and then you connecting with Gabe Davis in a literal way with your helmets.
I guess that's a microcosm of what we hoped it would be. He did a good job of stepping in, making some plays for us down the stretch there, and we're going to try to use this momentum going forward.
Yeah, lastly, what do you think you guys discovered or hopefully have to build upon in terms of the offense in the passing game? Because a lot of guys were involved.
A lot of guys were involved. We feel like that's who we are. I feel like we need to be better in the run game, but again, when one isn't working, we got to rely on the other, and I think we did that well tonight. But again, just trying to find a way to win a football game.
That's awesome. The FOMO is real. Evan, you got a front row seat to some history being made. Evan Washburn joins us now. What was going through your head, though, watching this 6-touchdown performance play out?
We got the full Josh Allen experience, Jordan. And outside of maybe Lamar Jackson, it's the best seat in the NFL in terms of entertainment because he will give you everything. And he mentioned it there in that post-game interview. The first quarter, he looked like rookie and second-year Josh Allen, just doing things to try and make a big play that inevitably leads to some tough mistakes. But where he is now, his command of his game, his athleticism, and his big play ability, he can make up for it. And you saw that in the following 3 quarters. He did have a funny lateral attempt that ended up being a penalty because it was a forward progress play. So again, it was the whole kit for what Josh Allen brings. But I think speaking to the larger side of this is what this team needs from him right now, because the way they look on defense, and we'll address that, I'm sure, but also just with their lack of, I would call it A-listers as weapons, maybe outside of James Cook, and the Bucs did such a nice job bottling him up for most part of this game. Josh Allen has to be Superman, and he was that for a large portion of what was a really, really critical win for them, not just for the standings and their attempt to keep pace with New England or stay in their rear view, but just to get the mojo back. They felt pretty down, Jordan, after that 30-13 loss to the Dolphins.
So they win in convincing fashion, moved to 7-3, also got some help from around the AFC, moved up a spot in the process in terms of the playoff picture, as you just referenced. But what were some of your big takeaways from the team perspective? And we can start with that defense.
That's the concern. I'm not sure I sit here right now and the Bills, if I was one to have picked at the beginning of the season in official capacity, would have been my Super Bowl team. I just felt like it was time. But the injuries to me might be too much to overcome defensively, especially up front. The Ed Oliver loss is just ginormous because they can't stop the run right now. They're ranked 30th in the NFL. That might dip after this game. They allowed 202 yards to the Bucs, a team that's a quality run team, but they don't have their best running back in Bucky Irving. And you can't win, Jordan, as you know, as the calendar turns now to November, December, and then the playoffs in January, if you can't stop the run. So watching that game, as entertaining as it was, I was playing out in my head, hey, would you be confident to pick this team in January if they can't figure out some way to not necessarily be a top 10 run defense, but you can't be where they were yesterday because it was just too easy for Tampa Bay.
Let's go ahead and get to those Buccaneers who have now dropped 2 consecutive games. How much of a setback was this loss against the Bills for Baker and company?
Well, I think you can look at it from two angles. From a playoff positioning, big picture standpoint, I don't think it was a huge setback because they kind of resemble what Buffalo's been in years past with New England being down, where they're going to win their division, in my opinion, and they can kind of play around here a little bit. And not to say you want to lose games or you're comfortable losing games, but it doesn't necessarily wreak havoc on your playoff seeding in your attempt to win the division. But they defensively as well have to figure some things out, especially in the back end. But I guess it would encompass the run defense as well. They're allowing too many big plays. You saw it in the New England game, the Travion Henderson runs. This goes back to when they lost to Detroit, and Gibbs is going off for 70-plus yard runs. Yesterday, it was Shavers, a 43-yard touchdown catch. James Cook had another big play. Todd Bowles is one of the best designers of blitzes and defensive coordinators as a head coach in the league. But right now they have a big play allowed problem. Jamel Dean went down early with the hip injury. He's their top corner, but that's not necessarily the whole reason. If they clean that up, Jordan, I feel really good about Tampa Bay. I thought yesterday was one of those games. You saw it. It was a back and forth kind of shootout type game. One team who was going to have the ball last. And to Buffalo's credit, they made the stop late that they need to.
We just showed you a look at the NFC playoff picture. Before we kind of get into more of what impressed you in terms of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, Josh Allen really solidified himself in this MVP conversation with his performance yesterday. But how about the other quarterback in Baker Mayfield?
I thought he was awesome. I mean, he didn't make every throw. He had a couple mistakes similar to Josh. But it's funny, I'm preparing for the Bears and Steelers game that our crew will have this week. So I just watched back the Vikings and Bears game from yesterday. And to go from witnessing Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen in person and their ability to throw in really challenging conditions, wind, cold, all of it, and then to watch Caleb and to watch J.J. McCarthy, two young quarterbacks still figuring it out, that you can see the chasm in terms of playmaking ability right now from those positions. They were playing on time, and they were making plays. And that's what this league's built on right now, as you know, the ability of the elite quarterbacks to carry offenses and make big plays and make big throws. And both those guys did that. And I thought Baker went toe-to-toe with Josh. And Josh, as we pointed out of the gate, was as good as it gets with the 6 combined touchdowns.
Tampa just one game ahead of the Carolina Panthers in the division loss column right now. You mentioned how awesome Baker Mayfield was yesterday. He was, of course, a bright spot. But what else? Who or what else impressed you yesterday?
Well, I think there's a guy in that game that we didn't get to talk about a lot because he was held in check. But Jordan, Emeka Egbuka is an incredibly impressive young player in this league. And I think that's based off of what he does on the field. He's in the conversation for Rookie of the Year offensively, but also off of it. Everybody we talked to mentioned just what an incredible person he is. And you hear that a lot, and sometimes it feels more like lip service than reality, but he carries it. And one of the things he brought up in our meeting that I thought was so cool, that had he maybe made a few more plays we would have got into, is he's already thinking big picture with his career. And this is part of that idea of kind of emptying the notebook, something we didn't get into in the game. He's already planning on, once he hits year 3 in the league, when he knows that the league and the NFLPA will pay for a master's degree, that he's going to get his master's in theology. Very religious and really interested in that side of things. But beyond just the subject matter, just the fact that this guy who's in his early 20s and just starting to make plays in the league is already thinking about what he's doing off of it struck all of us in that room. And I hadn't heard that in all the years doing this from a rookie already having a plan in place for in year 3 getting their master's degree. And he also went into depth about what that Ohio State wide receiver room did for building out not only his game, but his mindset. And you think about it, Jordan, when he walked in to that wide receiver room in Columbus, and it's Jackson Smith-Njigba, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams before he transferred, and just what they were able to do to build each other up. And we're kind of seeing it every Sunday now as they litter the top 10 to 15 in terms of receivers in this league.
That game is going to be hard to follow up for you, Evan Washburn, that's for sure. But next up is a trip to Windy City. Week 12, we'll see a matchup between the Steelers and Bears for you. You will be on the sideline for that one. I think we're all wondering how concerned we should be with Aaron Rodgers and his hand injury that he suffered yesterday. Let's start there of the concern level.
Well, look, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's your starting quarterback. He's a future Hall of Famer. At times this year, he's looked every bit of it. And it's an injury that could keep him out of this game. I think the comfort, if you want to use that word, would be that it's not his throwing hand, but there's a lot that goes into using your offhand at the quarterback position, from taking snaps to handoffs to all those things. I think we'll know most likely by Wednesday, if not Thursday, what his availability will be. I thought Mason Rudolph, at least statistically, was able to come in there in that game against Cincinnati and hold it down. And he has experience in this league. He's what I would call a quality backup, which you need. And it's an interesting game, Jordan, because as much as we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers and Caleb Williams and what they bring, I think it's about both these defenses, because these teams feast on takeaways. When they're playing well, the defense is leading the way in their big wins and their big games. But that can be a challenging kind of environment to live in week to week in terms of relying on takeaways to be your bread and butter. But these are the two of the best in the NFL right now. So it's going to be an interesting game based off of, to your point, the availability of Rodgers, but also which defense is going to be able to do their thing on Sunday.
Lastly, let's hit on the Bears. Obviously, in the playoffs, leading the NFC North right now at 7-3. You mentioned Caleb Williams. What are you expecting to see from him?
I think there's been improvement. We had them a few weeks ago in Baltimore, and it was clear he was still trying to consume a really challenging offense and find command of it. And just watching back the game from yesterday in Minnesota, his ability to elude sacks is unlike anything I've seen, probably, again, outside of what Lamar Jackson does and maybe Josh Allen. But he's not the size of Josh Allen, and he's not the level of athlete of Lamar Jackson. But, man, his determination not to go down is impressive. But he does scramble a lot. He holds onto the ball much. They're not playing on schedule. But, look, they have a belief right now, Jordan, and you've been around this league long enough to know that if you're a team that feels like we're close late into the fourth quarter, whether we're down a score or we're up 3, we can hold a team off. They've won 3 straight in the final minute of a game. And there's something to that. And I think it's one of those non-quantitative stats and things. Sometimes people don't believe in momentum. I tend to, because I believe these are young guys that are athletes that when things go well, they build confidence, and that usually leads to production and quality play. And right now, Chicago has something brewing, but they're going to run into a buzzsaw in Pittsburgh that's kind of on the other side of this thing, where they've got so many experienced guys on both sides of the ball that I think could pose a real threat for Chicago. But it's a huge game, and we're excited to have it.
Incredible insight, as always, Evan Washburn. Get some rest. Week 12 on deck. You can watch Evan in that game on CBS. Steelers and Bears kicks off at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Some other great games going on across the NFL, though, in the early slate. We'll see the Patriots and Bengals, and then, of course, the Colts and Chiefs. All eyes will also be on that game. 1 o'clock Eastern time.